Welcome back to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
Okay, this is episode 281. First things first, Austin, Texas, University Lodge. If you weren't there, you missed an amazing evening of fellowship. Just this past week, I was in Austin, Texas, presenting at the 8th annual festive board there for University Lodge. And I just have to say a huge thanks goes out to Brother Jim Walters, Brother JJ Mann, and Brother Barry Lewis. These three brothers showed me hospitality that was ridiculous. You guys, I cannot tell you how proud I am to have been able to be there with you guys and help raise the money for those charities and share in the fellowship that you guys put together. University Lodge, in my mind, has a plan of action that will lead to the perpetuation of the fraternity for many years to come. They focus on fellowship, they focus on education, and they take care of business too. So just a huge thanks goes out to those guys. I'm so glad that you guys were able to raise the amount of money we did. Just an incredible time. There was a ton of people there. So just one last time, thank you so much to University Lodge for the fellowship, for the hospitality, and for the opportunity to share in your mission. Thanks so much, guys. And now I have one last thanks from the Austin trip, which is to Brother Tom McGuire, who didn't so much accost me, but walked up to me and said, "Hey, how you doing? You've bought stuff from me before." And I said, I did? And I didn't recognize the name. And of course, this is the guy behind Fossil Bluff. So if you don't know what this guy does, I can't even describe what he does because he's got creations that kind of span the gamut. So Fossil Bluff is, if you go to fossilbluff.com, you can check it out. Curious Creations, if you click on that, and that really kind of describes what he makes. So he is a Texas Mason, so he makes like a 4x4 white Texas Masonic vinyl vehicle decal, and he's made some other cool stuff. He even made like a conjurer's wand. He's made Masonic medallions with the working tools with magnets that, so they could stick them to your car, you can stick them on your fridge. He's made a really neat Masonic lapel pin and metal display ribbon. One of my favorite things he did was he made this Masonic shadow box, which has clay, charcoal, and chalk in it. Masons will get it. It's just the coolest thing, and he gave me a bag basically with one of everything that he makes, including this really neat little notebook. You guys gotta go to fossilbluff.com, check it out. Brother Tom has got some amazing things here. I actually used the square and compass magnets. I use them on I have a really neat bookcase where it has like this metallic grid wire in front of the book so I can close it and lock my books away. Kind of necessary with the little kids, right? So anyway, I use those on the metallic grate. I'll post a picture for you guys to check out on my Instagram account. But just really cool. I can't say enough cool stuff about it. And Brother Tom, thank you so much. The gratitude I feel for what you gave me in these gifts, and just the friendship you showed while I was there, offering to take me around town and everything was just outstanding. So thanks again to Brother Tom McGuire. If you guys, again, get a chance, please contact Brother Tom. Go to his website, fossilbluff.com. Thanks again, Tom. I really appreciate it. In the news this week, just want to mention that we did get rid of a lot of the things that we had been publishing for a while and pushing the show out to. Namely, we got rid of a MySpace feed. It became apparent over years of pushing things out to that very few hits come from that, so we eliminated that. I eliminated the Google Plus business page for WCY because essentially Google has made it really difficult to continue it in the way we were using it, so that's gone. I did field a couple questions about our Instagram account. The Instagram account is still active and we publish on it. There's not a link for it on our website outside of just the social media button that you can find there. Got rid of some dead links on our website. Apparently, some gentlemen who had been doing blogs for a while have gone dark and let their websites go dark, so I did remove those. And so everything on the website is pretty much current. We've added a new navigation bar at the top, so you can just kind of go through, support the show. So if you hover over that, you can see the limited edition store, the make a donation, where to shop, and our donor wall. From us to you, that's where you can find your Manly P. Hall lectures, a list of the famous Freemasons we covered, and the bookstore links. So Midnight Freemason, the Masonic Roundtable, WCY Media, and Masonic Radio Theater. And we've got a really nice big link for the 300 years of Masonry. What is this? So if you don't listen to the Masonic Roundtable and you don't follow our Twitter feed or our Facebook feed, the DC gathering that I have been alluding to is actually something that we've been planning for about almost a year now. The Masonic Roundtable, myself included, are throwing the biggest 300 years of organized Freemasonry party ever. So the United Grand Lodge of England formed 1717 or 1721, we really don't know. Grand Lodge of England is going with the 1717 date. 300 years, that's going to be June 24th, 2017. And the United Grand Lodge of England is hosting a big event and a gala, which is apparently invite only. But a lot of lodges, I'm sure, around the United Kingdom will be sure to be holding individual events where, regular Masons can just go and attend. But we owe our charters here in the United States to the Grand Lodge of England as well. So what are we doing to celebrate? And the answer was nothing. We researched everywhere and nobody had been putting together anything. So we researched a few different places to go and put this on. And we settled on the George Washington Masonic National Memorial. So we're hosting the party there at the memorial. Have you ever attended a party there? Probably not. It's going to be amazing. The details are 300 Freemasonry's Legacy, Freemasonry's Future. So June 23rd is a Friday. We're going to have early arrivals and registration, Masonic tours of DC and the surrounding area. That'll be to be determined. We're going to have a dinner at about 7 p.m. at a local restaurant. It's going to be buy your own meal, just kind of a get together, and we'll have some good fellowship and some beers or whatever. June 24th, Saturday, that's the George Washington Masonic National Memorial date. So on that day, St. John's Day. So we're going to have some notable Masonic speakers. I'm going to drop this. We're going to have Stephen L. Harrison there, who's going to be talking about a very cool topic. We're having another guest speaker. I'm going to let the Masonic Roundtable on that show. I'll let John Ruark knock that one out of the park and let you all know what's going on there. We're going to have some trivia games. So there's going to be prizes. There's going to be Masonic vendors. Not the same old stuff you're used to. The new guys. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be fellowship galore and much more. And the idea is this is going to really be a conference. The really cool part about this is that you are going to be a part of it. You are not going to be there sitting in a seat just listening to other people. You're going to be doing talking. You're going to be discussing ideas. This is going to be not just people pontificating about Masonry and telling you about all this cool stuff. This is going to be you guys and us working together to find answers to some of our questions. Where are we going? What have we done in the past? We're going to discuss so much stuff. It's just going to be amazing. I'm really excited about this. You can go and you can get the tickets right there by clicking on the link on our website. So if you go to wcypodcast.com and you click on 300 Years Celebration, or you can go to themasonicroundtable.com/300. It's going to take you right to there. This is going to be interesting because the George Washington Masonic Memorial is not cheap to rent out, guys. We put up a lot of capital to do this. We rented a national memorial. I mean, that's pretty big. So with that, keep that in mind. The ticket, we have an early bird ticket price. It's $99 to go. When you consider what we're doing and where we are and what we have to pay for in order to get all this going for you guys, and us included, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be well worth it, and you're going to get a lot out of this. It'll be the biggest celebration that you have been to regarding Freemasonry. For some people, the biggest ever. It's going to be amazing. I can't say it enough. Please go. Please check it out. The more people go ahead and buy tickets now, the more programming we can add later on. So this is something that's going to evolve as we get up to the date, and just keep in mind, you are a key to the success of this. Thank you very much in your consideration for heading on over to themasonicroundtable.com/300, or again, you can go to wcypodcast.com and click on the link for 300 Years of Freemasonry right at the top. Can't miss it. Also, coming up in the future, I want you all to look for a new segment we're starting called 10 Worshipful Masters, 10 Questions, so kind of a 10 and 10. And the idea here is to get 10 Worshipful Masters to donate some time and answer 10 random questions. Some are wild and crazy, some are funny, some are serious, some are not so serious, but ultimately, they're going to answer these questions, and these questions will help us gauge the fraternity and how we all individually see it and what we're doing in success and what we're doing in our failures, and just gauge the different views about Freemasonry all over the place. So I've got some great guys lined up already. I think we've got 1 or 2 spots left, and if I've got any Prince Hall sitting Worshipful Masters, please consider doing this, because I haven't gotten a volunteer from a Prince Hall Lodge yet. I need a sitting master. So if there's any sitting Worshipful Masters, Prince Hall Lodges out there, shoot me an email, admin@wcypodcast.com, and you'll be either number 9 or number 10 on the list. We've got a full list already almost. I think I have 2 spots left to do these questions. So I really want to get those opinions and those viewpoints out there as well. So thanks very much for your cooperation there. And with that, let's go into this week's conversation with Frater O. And we talked about concentration, and we talked about consciousness, and we talked about the mind in general. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get right into it.
Good afternoon and welcome.
What?
I say good afternoon and welcome. Can we release the masks? Just take them off. How can we be a secret... How can we be a secret society if we can't keep all of our secrets?
Do they know we faked the moon landing?
No, not yet.
Or that there are only 49 shades of gray?
They're suspicious, but that's not what I'm talking about.
What about Bigfoot?
Bigfoot's not real and everyone knows that.
Did they figure out we deflated the football?
No, we found a fall guy for that one.
Bigfoot's definitely real.
Nope.
We'll just have to agree to disagree.
What about Area 51? Do they know about that?
No.
How about Area 52 to 54?
No, stop saying areas. No areas plus a number.
Literally hundreds of photos of Bigfoot.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw him once. Wait,
See?
Bigfoot? I'm getting it wrong. Paul Bunyan?
Point is, someone is leaking this stuff.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at you, Anne.
I've seen his footprint when I was
Scott! What they do know is that avocados from Mexico have good fat.
So they know they're healthy.
They know everything. Kyle, are you streaming this?
Is that not cool?
No, it's not cool. That's what secret means. It's a secret society.
Oh, wow, secret, yep. Hey, I got a like.
You got a like?
That was me.
I like you too.
At least they don't know about subliminal advertising.
That's not even a thing, right?
Avocados from Mexico.
So if you guys really enjoyed that awesome avocado commercial, you can thank Frater O, who sent it to me. I thought we'd all have a laugh and listen to the new avocado commercial, Mexico Avocados. Thanks very much, Frater O, for sending that off and starting the show with us this week.
Oh, absolutely. That was quite a funny commercial. If you just listen to it, I highly recommend clicking on the link that we're going to have in our show notes to watch it. It's a good laugh.
It's really good. Probably one of the better comical adaptations of a lodge meeting. You guys have probably seen some Monty Python stuff, and but this commercial was really pretty funny. It's been a little while. We've got Frater O back on the program. It's been a couple weeks, and thanks for coming back on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to catch up. It's an interesting show topic that we picked tonight. We're going to be getting into concentration and touching on consciousness as well.
Yeah, so it should be pretty good. If you guys, I just want to say right off the bat, if you guys didn't catch Frater O on the Masonic Roundtable, we had him on a few weeks ago. We talked about the Masonic symbolism of Doctor Strange. That episode was huge. People really loved it. We had a lot of fun with it. So if you want to check that out, and there are spoilers all over the place, so check that episode out, Masonic Roundtable, the Masonic symbolism of Doctor Strange, featuring Frater O as a panelist there for it with us. So this week, as Frater said, we're going to talk about concentration, might touch on consciousness a little bit, and I'm just going to toss it right over to Frater O to kind of kick things off.
When you get into more of the deeper mystery schools that you could find inside of Masonry, or you can find outside of Masonry, you end up finding really one of the fundamental teachings is concentration. And concentration is a really interesting thing. And being present in a conversation or whatever you're doing is really prevalent when you start getting into these deeper mysteries of knowing yourself or the path of self-discovery. So we've talked a lot about meditation on the past, but we've never really kind of touched on its counterpart. So if, for an example, if concentration is the positive, the counterintuitive, the negative side of it is actually meditation. So you need to really have both of them to kind of self-balance each other out, and you can't have one without the other.
So can you go into that a little bit? People would think that sometimes you would have to concentrate in meditation to achieve something. How is meditation the opposite? Is it just because we're focusing in concentration, we're focusing on one thing, and then meditation, we're clearing our minds?
The best I heard about it was, one of the ancient Rosicrucian SRI books or SRIA books that I came across was that the concentration is more of an active idea, and meditation is more of a passive idea.
Okay.
So it was interesting to hear it presented that way, because really you need both of them together to kind of find that equilibrium in between. So without concentration, you're not going to have meditation. The more you meditate, it's going to really feed concentration. So it's definitely this battery, and you want to be able to find yourself directly in the middle of it.
Right.
It's pretty amazing when you get into the deeper mysteries of knowing yourself. You can pull back plenty of books when you start diving deep into the esoterics. One of the books in particular that I recommend is a 1918 book. It's called Concentration by Ann Ritz Militz. And it's just a simple book that was published, like I said, early 1900s, and it gets into the simple fundamentals of knowing thyself, the nature of concentration, the power of repose, self-control, concentration in daily active life, concentration in general, and then peace and bliss. And it's short, sweet, like we've always talked about, simple books. I think it's only 86 pages long. We'll put it in the show notes. And it kind of just gets right to the gist of like learning how to be present and understanding of not allowing your mind to wander. I mean, what about you, RJ? I mean, do you find yourself, if you're not meditating and you're consciously going throughout your day, or if you're in lodge and going through ritual, if you're not meditating, being present really doesn't, I find myself being present not really typical. I'm not there, so to speak.
That is 100% an issue. So while I find that I am mostly, I think I walk around in more of a meditative state. I'm very passive. I'm not particularly concentrating on any one thing. I'm taking in everything. It's just kind of a big openness. But what I find interesting is that when I need to concentrate, for instance, if my friends or somebody comes up to me and starts talking and I want to listen to them, but for whatever reason, something is happening in the distance or in the background noise, and I'm not paying the attention I should. And I'm not entirely sure. There's a way I can't really describe, but I recognize the fact that I should be here and now and give that person everything. And I've gotten a lot better with it. And I think that's where I think it comes down to a connection with somebody, the ability to concentrate and look that person in the eyes when you talk to them. And to me, that really helps. But I've also noticed that, and maybe it's just the way society is, that largely people will get really uncomfortable when we make eye contact. I don't know why that is. I feel like people want to, they'll hold it for a second, or sometimes they immediately look away. Other times they will hold it for a second and then find something to fiddle with in their hands or whatever and look down at it. But I'm not exactly sure. Like with children, that's pretty typical, but like with adults, I don't know why that is. And so I think my biggest issue with concentration comes down to people. And I don't always have the ability to pay the attention to that person that I want to, even when I know I should be doing it. Like my mind is just too open at points. Like I'm hearing everything. And there's other times where I will, as far as like focus, I should talk about one thing, something will pop in my head and then just boom. Oh, hey, before I forget, I know I was talking about this. I'm bouncing over here real quick. Let me tell you about this quick thing. All right, let's bounce back to this. So my concentration level is really weird. It's a challenge all the time. And it's at this point where I realize this sounds a lot like an issue that a famous actor, Mr. Bill Murray, has to deal with. and an interesting interview he gave. And I'd just like to play 1 second of it, and we'll go right back into the talk with Frater O. I'll have the full link to the entire interview clip in the show notes.
So tell me what it is that you want that you don't have.
Well, I'd like to be more consistently here, you know. I'd like to really get on I'd like to just, and I know it's not probably ever maybe possible, but because it's so improbable and so impossible, I'd just like to really see how long I could last as being really here, you know, really in it, really alive.
Well, in today's world in general, it's extremely difficult. I mean, we're constantly distracted by social media or cell phones or any, you know, bells or whistles or instant gratification, and how many, you know, God knows how many apps we have on our phones, or there's just so much in our daily lives that distract us all the time. So in this Western world, it's really easy to get caught up in thinking about paying my bills. Did I reach out to this person? Did I do that? So your mind can be all over the place. I think Thomas Vaughan, in a very famous alchemical text, said it best, is your mind is like a stagecoach with 4 horses. And each one of those 4 horses want to go in every different direction.
Right.
And your job as an alchemist is to literally control all those horses of your mind to go in one simple direction, which we're getting at as concentration. So do you find yourself, at least I'm going to digress to lodge here, and I'll never forget when I first became a Mason, what one person was like, what are these deeper mysteries that we're getting into? And they're like, well, I don't know. I just go up to lodge and I kind of just check out for an hour and a half. And I was just like, what? Like, check out? He's like, yeah, I just daydream. I'm like, well, there's some pretty serious stuff that's presented on there. And then in all 3 degrees, I mean, there's some really unique philosophical lessons. And Masons, you understand what I'm talking about. People that aren't Masons, I highly recommend, if you're interested, to explore those mysteries. But it's to be completely present, because it's really easy to watch one part of the ritual and go, oh my gosh, this makes this, and this leads to this. And then your mind, like you talked about, starts to wander down that river of consciousness, or that stream of consciousness. And the next thing you know, you've missed half the ritual because your mind's gone off on this extremely long tangent.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's one of the reasons why it's important to both. Maybe there's an argument here that experiencing something like what we would call an ineffable degree, whether that's a 3rd degree for you in Masonry or some grade in another order. But I think there's an argument here for a twofold issue, that in order to be a Master Mason, you should have gone through the degree and witnessed the degree. Because I think there are things that you see and you realize on one side and then you see on the other side. And there's probably a reason why it's important to continually go back and witness the degrees. For the reason you mentioned, we see a portion of a degree, it blows our mind, and it takes off on a stream of consciousness down one area, and then we've missed the next couple things. And if we go back and we see the degree again, we get another shot at catching something else.
Well, absolutely. So what steps are you taking during your personal journey that you've learned along the way that helps you be more prevalent or present in, you know, your ability to concentrate on any task or whatever it may be in life?
There's 2 things that I really do. One is I utilize to-do lists to stay concentrated on a series of things that I need to get done. So it helps me keep organized. I make a list every single day. I never get through it all. And then I write down the same things constantly every day, because there's a list of stuff I just don't get to. I think Gene Simmons said in his book, if you got everything on your to-do list done, the to-do list wasn't long enough, which was interesting, because we should be industrious. We should be out there getting things done. But that's only part of concentration, really. So the other area that I say I struggle with is this connection with people. And I think we've talked about it, and it's the loose idea is there. Bill Murray did a video, right, where he said, he was asked, what do you wish you could do better, or something along those lines? And he said, I wish I could just be present, really be there, really be here. And he talked about so many times, you look in the mirror and you see the person in the mirror and it's you, but you don't really realize it's you because it's just that person in the mirror. But if you're present, right? There's something I've felt before, I think, in my own life, and I say I witnessed through my own eyes, but I don't really have a way to describe it. It's tech nerds might get it, right? But there is a mode on some TVs. Some TVs call it like smart whatever. Sometimes it's dynamic contrast or whatever it is. And it makes a movie look like a soap opera, like it was filmed with a handy cam. And it's really weird. And people, it's like comes default on a lot of TVs, and people leave it and they think this is the great picture that I paid for. No, it's not actually. That's just a dynamic contrast feature. But sometimes I feel like all of a sudden everything that I'm witnessing through my eyes feels like a camera lens. And it's when I'm really focused. It's when I'm really intent on something and I'm looking around, taking in my surroundings, and I feel like maybe I'm utilizing all of my senses and things just look different. Things look more vibrant. It feels like I'm viewing the world through a camera lens. It's just weird. And it happens when I'm more concentrated on something. It could be reading a book and all of a sudden I look up and everything looks funny. People are probably like, you're having a stroke, dude. No, like I'm totally fine. My health is great. But I feel like what have I done to concentrate and to do that? And I think I've worked on one element as far as with people is just respect. I want to respect this person by giving them my complete attention. And when people come up to me on the side and they're like starting to squawk at me, I'll say, hey, hold on 1 second. I'm talking to so-and-so right now. If you just give me a little bit, I'll come find you. If I don't come find you, sorry, maybe next time. There just has to be a respect issue, I think, where I really try to focus in. And then when I think about that respect that I want to pay that person by listening to them, somehow my mind is able to shut off the external so that I can focus. I think it's maybe just it's a personal mind hack, right? It's the way my head works with it. How about you? Are you having to deal with concentration in any kind of odd ways in your day-to-day?
Well, that's an interesting mind hack that you just mentioned. But my journey's been more unique than most people. And you were talking just before we get into my journey, just want to kind of piggyback off of what you mentioned in regards to the difference between the lens. And through my definition and through my lens of viewing this, I found a direct correlation between being in the mind and being in your body. Yeah. There's a direct, when you're present and you're with it, you're in your body, you're there. But when you you can feel that difference when you start to creep back into your mind and just go back up into your head. That's where usually you can find that ego that resides up there, and that whole ideology of knowing the self. You're trying to defeat those demons that reside in the mind. And being present in the body, we mentioned in the green room before the show in regards to the Esoteric Anatomy by Dr. Bruce Bolger, or I think it's just Bruce Bolger.
Yeah, Bruce.
And you can get into, he touches on all kinds of different aspects of symbology and getting really into the physical body and the correlation between the mind and the body and how important that is. And it's fascinating with these ancient esoteric anatomy and the occult anatomy maps. You start to find definitely a direct correlation on the body. And there's always two pillars of King Solomon's temple that's represented there. So this polarity is represented in the human body. Now this polarity can be actually backed up by science. There's actually a charge that actually comes from a positive and a negative on each side. But when you start to get into Hatha yoga, that's created from a lot of different swamis in India, Ha and Tha is actually represented on the map as well. There's two polarity aspects of it. Ha usually is the left side. Don't hold me to this. I'm going off the top of my head. Ha is the left side, which is the male side, and Tha is the right side, the female side of the body in the moon. So that polarity aspect of the human body is really important on finding that balance inside. As well as you start getting into more of the deeper mysteries of, you get into acupuncture and yoga. They believe the mind and the body are connected, but the actual physical memories and the operating system runs out of the 12 cranial nerves into the physical muscle tissues, and actually the body's connected to the mind. So memories and things you hold into the past physically reside themselves in the muscle tissue. This is where acupuncture kind of gets into with meridians and chi points. And the importance of the connection of being loose and being limber and letting just being prevalent in your body and knowing to be comfortable in your body. Because it's really easy if you're in a lot of pain, something I've experienced recently, or if you're going through a lot of mental trauma, you want to retreat back up into your mind and not be prevalent or not be present. So for my journey, I found like yoga is really, really important. Another form of Tai Chi, simple movements, but allowing that energy and understanding that energy and feeling that energy. Besides, exercise, or it's definitely, meditation. We talked about earlier in the show, it's that full circle thing. So when I get into meditation, personally speaking, I can always feel that like I'm not breathing. As soon as they get there, I'm like, man, I'm just taking short breaths through the day. I'm not taking deep breaths. As soon as you start getting that system and start taking those deep breaths, then you can kind of quiet that ego. You can quiet the mind, get deeper into your physical body and be more present. So that prana, which you start getting into in Eastern mystery schools, is really, really important. So, the diet is the next form. Usually I always touch on, and eating healthy. Your cells, you have these trillions of cells or workmen inside of you that are always constantly repairing, rebuilding, or allowing you to function properly in this meat suit to be prevalent or be present. And I find through my magical journey here on Earth is that like just eating healthy is really, really important, because if you're loading yourself up on all kinds of sugars and all kinds of coffee and all kinds of things that are just making your brain go crazy and all kinds of drugs, then you're not going to be prevalent. Your mind's going to be scrambled like an egg. You're not going to be able to sit and focus and concentrate and be that present. I've been there. I know. I've struggled with ADD my whole life until I started eating healthy, and I was always constantly like in my mind of how to say what to say next and not be present in the conversation and listen, which was a huge learning task for me. And so when you start getting into these aspects of yourself, you start wanting to peeling back those layers, and it's difficult. Everyone's different. Maybe some things you're taking from my experience and RJ's experience can definitely help you. Maybe it might not, but the importance of finding yourself and understanding those deeper things inside of you, because ultimately you're your own best advocate when you start getting into knowing yourself, being present, and focusing more on building those internal aspects of yourself, right? So as we're Masons, we learn these intangible aspects and these stones that we're building towards something more mystical inside of ourselves.
I think one of the interesting elements that Masonry does is that we just have that bit of ritual that says it's no secret. So one of the working tools we have, non-Masons, it's a gavel, and we say that it's used to break off rough and superfluous parts of stones. But we as free and accepted Masons, well, we use that a little different. What we say it symbolizes is our ability to get rid of vice and bad habits, essentially. But it's there to fit our minds as a living stone. So this is where we come into the idea of a disciplined mind. This is where we come into the idea of honing your mind's abilities. And what does your mind do? It thinks and it manifests. It has two tools to do that. And those tools are necessarily contemplation with concentration, and there's also the meditative aspect. And the meditative aspect allows for a widening of consciousness, whereas the concentration is a narrowing of consciousness to a point where it's focused on one thing. One of the parts in Esoteric Anatomy, The Body as Consciousness by Bruce Berger. So in Cosmic Consciousness, chapter 15 talks a little bit about, it's called Our Bodies Are Conscious Microcosms of the Universe. There is a few really cool things in here. One of them is, it talks about the Sanatana Dharma. It talks about cosmic evolution proceeds from unconscious, unmoving, unknowable, and unmanifest macrocosm to the conscious. And it's got a little quote here on cosmic consciousness, which again is the goal of, well, I can't say it's the goal, but it is a place you can access with meditation when done properly. And that is, quote by R.M. Buck, Cosmic Consciousness, says, all at once I found myself wrapped in a flame of colored cloud. There came upon me a sense of exaltation, of immense joyousness, accompanied or immediately followed by an intellectual illumination impossible to describe. I saw that the universe is not composed of dead matter, but is on the contrary a living presence. I became conscious in myself of eternal life. It was not a conviction that I would have eternal life, but a consciousness that I possessed eternal life then. I saw that all men are immortal, that the cosmic order is such that without any pre-adventure all things work together for the good of each and all, that the foundation principle of the world, of all the worlds, is what we call love, and that the happiness of each and all is in the long run absolutely certain. Just an interesting part of this book. This book is mostly on consciousness. However, being one consciousness study, kind of being in the meditative portion, the all-encompassing widening of thought, the opposite of what we're talking about here, which is the concentration.
But I mean, it's definitely a step, concentration to get that. And while you're saying that quote and while you're talking about it, I just can't help to digress to the first degree lecture.
Sure.
And those who are listening, if you don't remember it, I recommend going back and listening to that lecture or that talk. And those new Masons that are going through it, definitely tune in and pay attention, because there's some unique things that are presented there that we've just touched on, but are explained much deeper, much deeper.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, what we're getting into is really the first degree here, concentration, and learning how to control being present and understanding the tools that are presented there to help you be kind of more the rule and the guide and the signpost to kind of stay within that realm on how to control that. And it's funny, when you start applying those working tools that are presented in the first degree, you start seeing a lot of correlations. So you started touching on just a little bit in what your talk there on just more concentration, but more getting into what if you get into like the early 1900s, late 1800s, it's referred to as personal magnetism, or a lot of times it kind of before the New Age movement, it kind of became psychic influence, and then it kind of transformed into the law of attraction. And kind of, the more of like the thought force, concentration, willpower, and practical mental science. And your body's a magnet ultimately,
right?
And so what you're putting out is going to come back to you. So it's really important in your daily life with concentration to realize that either you can take in what everyone else is giving you, energy, emotions, or you can put out into the universe. And it's important as Masons is to put out, not take in, because we can take in all we want and take in other people's emotions, and this happens all the time. I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, you have a friend who's really, really negative. Everything always bad's happened to them and they can't understand why.
Yep.
And then when you're around them, you're just like, oh man, like what I just feel so negative. And like, this is science. This has been backed up. Like we all personally put out this really unique bubble around us, and we do have a sphere of magnetism that goes around us, as well as they actually show, and actually science, the eyes actually produce a light frequency. So when you get that weird stare, like someone's staring at you, and you look at that person and they're staring directly at you, science backs this up. And there's a really good book that was written that touches on this. It's not Masonic, but it's esoteric. Again, it's under 100 pages, like 90 pages. I think it was published in the early 1900s by William Walker Atkinson. And a lot of the New Age movement or the law of attraction really touches on some stuff, but he really gets deeper into this aspect of this personal magnetism that is referred to, and being able to put things out positively and be that change and be that effect in the universe that creates those ripple effects, which you start talking about, those working tools earlier, chipping off those parts of the stone.
Yeah.
So we'll add that. That's a past as copyright as well, so we'll definitely add that into the show notes.
That's one of the best parts, is that so much of I wouldn't call it the Enlightenment period, but it's like the secondary Enlightenment period. And these things that were written late 19th century, early 20th century, they're all past their copyright, and it's so wonderful to be able to just go out and get these. They're on like archive.org or whatever. But again, you won't have to go looking for them. We'll have them all there for you. Wanted to make sure that you all enjoyed this week's episode, concentration. We stayed on topic, I think, so we did a good job with concentration. Frater O, thanks so much for being on the show again this week, man. It was just awesome to see you again and to have a good chat.
It's always a pleasure to catch up and enlighten some people in the process. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys don't know, you can follow Frater O on Facebook. It's a really cool page. He's got some really interesting things he puts out. It'll blow your mind. In addition to that, Frater O is going to be at Masonicon, okay, in April. It's going to be really, really awesome. I'm going to be there also. John Ruark is going to be there. But this is your chance. You can maybe you could pick Frater O out in a crowd. We'll see.
Well, if you do find me at Masonicon, I will have a pin for you.
There you go.
A special pin.
So thanks again, Frater, and thanks everybody for listening to the episode. All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview. If you did, and if you love this show, please consider heading on over to our website, wcypodcast.com, and under the Support the Show tab at the top, you can go to the Limited Edition store, where you can pick up our limited edition lapel pin. It is made exclusively by Edgar Alejandro from Masonic Revival. It's got a higher quality solid brass. It's 24 karat gold plating, hard-fired colored enamel, and it has a strong butterfly clasp on the back of the pin. What make this particular pin outstanding. The design of the pin is unique. You cannot get it anywhere else. It's got a triangle shape alluding to the self, the spiritual, and material. It's also used to symbolize those first 3 craft degrees. It's the outer triangle, symbolizing the external. It has a red border. The color red was used here to symbolize the Holy Royal Arch degree. The words "Whence came you" are used in the ritual and were the words of my mentor's favorite bumper sticker, which is where the title of the show comes from, and is the words bordering the pin on each side. The secondary triangle symbolizes the internal, inside of which is contained all of the other symbols and the working tools. Inside man are all of the tools that we need to build our temporal building. The square encompasses, as in the ritual, the square to square our actions, and the compasses to circumscribe and keep us within due bounds. The gavel, as in ritual, to break off those rough and superfluous parts of stone. The setting maul reminds us that death is near at all times, so we work diligently. Plumb line reminds us of the rectitude of life and our actions. The all-seeing eye reminds us of the ever-watchful eye of the Creator. Also, to the mind's eye, from which emanate the rays of light. The rays of light, there are 7 of them, each representing the 7 liberal arts and sciences: grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. The rays emanating from the all-seeing eye, or the mind's eye, are green, because this is used in Masonry as a color that is synonymous with education. We have the sprigs of acacia, symbolizing the perpetuation of life after death and the eternity of the soul. And last, we have the cipher symbols on there, which are the pigpen cipher, which translate to WCY. All of that is on this pin. I dare any other Masonic pin design to come forward with this much symbolism contained within it. I think you all will really enjoy it. It's one of a kind, so thank you so much for those contributions. Of course, we do have the cufflinks, the money clip, and the tie bar as well. Those are in limited quantities, but available nonetheless. If you're not into shopping and you just want to make a donation, consider making a direct donation through PayPal. You can just click that there on Support the Show tab, make a donation, and you can do that there. And then there, of course, is the Where to Shop button. So if you click that, that's where you can get to King Solomon's Reserve Beard Oil. You can get to Onnit products like Alpha Brain and Hemp Force Protein. Of course, there is the Donate via PayPal button there as well, and direct links to buybankersbest.com, where you can do 20% off when you use the promo code BBWCY357. So all some really cool ways to help this show out. And so that's it for this week. Please don't forget about the Masonic Roundtable going live Tuesday nights at 10/9 Central. You're not going to want to miss this next upcoming show. We've got some news for you on that episode. In addition to that, please don't forget about the Midnight Freemasons blog, where we publish 3 articles every single week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Always fresh education, sometimes some introspective points, sometimes some funny stuff, sometimes historical. At the very least, it's always entertaining. So that's it. Until next week, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.